there's some more seats, but full house. We'll see if we can get some more chairs. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Executive Mayor, welcome to the Cape Town Stadium. She's in her 10th year and she's beautiful and she's become one of our prime event spaces. And we're very proud of her. I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today. And I want to acknowledge the Deputy Mayor to being here. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Nielsen. Councillor Smith, our event partners, there's many over here, our event sponsors, and our colleagues from the media. My name is Lenora de Souza Zilwa, and I'm part of the city's events team. Today's proceedings will be kept short and businesslike. It's going to take the form of a couple of presentations, and then thereafter we won't take questions and answers from this stage. What we'll do is we'll give opportunities for one-on-ones with the various representatives that are here. So let's get right down to business. Mayor Plato, if you can join us.
Lenora, thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Also, Deputy Mayor, thank you for your presence. The Cape Town Stadium, one of the Mother City's iconic treasures, was shortlisted for the Event of the Year award during the United Kingdom-based Stadium Business Summit, and we're waiting for that anxiously. Having entered for hosting the HSBC Cape Town Sevens, the Cape Town Stadium was named finalist for Event of the Year. As the city, we are proud of the Cape Town Stadium's management, as well as the event organizer, for putting together an event that is being recognized by international audiences. More exciting news for Cape Town came in March when our city was announced as the host city for the 2023 Netball World Cup, following a strong intergovernmental bid. Our very own MACO member for Safety and Security, JP Smith, played an integral part in securing the bid for Cape Town, South Africa and Africa. Thank you, JP. This is a major showpiece which provides an opportunity for not only the country, but also the African continent to grow the status of netball and women's sport. There will be several events leading up to that tournament, starting with the National Under-19 Netball Championships later this month, and I see some of the netball fraternity representatives down here, and I welcome the two ladies. And later, I think within the next month or so, they will travel with Councillor JP back to Liverpool and to attend the International World Cup event down there in Liverpool. Working with the South African Football Association, Cape Town was able to successfully host Banyana for 3 weeks as they prepared for the World Cup, and later this year, for the first time ever, the Mother City will host the inaugural World Women's Sevens Series. And we're looking forward to that one as well. Our job as a city of Cape Town is to ensure we create an environment that enables the growth of events, and I believe working with the various event organizers, we have been able to unlock opportunities. This is important because the events industry is a crucial economic driver, and Cape Town's success is based on partnerships with various event organizers. And I want to thank all the event organizers being here this morning. Thank you for your support and the fact that we could structure those meaningful partnerships, and that relationship will definitely continue. Events also build civic pride, assist with social development, and the destination marketing has contributed to making Cape Town one of the top tourism destinations. We have some of the event organizers here with us today, and I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to them for their hard work in making these events a success. Without your dedication and this partnership, none of this is possible. We also work with our partners in Convenco and Wesgro's Convention Bureau in order to strengthen our meetings, incentives, conferencing and event strategy, which we see as key to growing both our tourism market and our fast-growing business tourism brand. For example, Wesgro, through the Convention Bureau, secured 33 bids for business meetings, conferences, incentives, and exhibitions to be hosted in the Western Cape, some of whom will be in Cape Town. This could potentially bring in about 453 million rand into the region's economy. In addition to this, Cape Town maintained its top position in the ICCA rankings for Africa, hosting 52 international association meetings and about 34,000 delegates attend. This past weekend, we got a taste of an international motor racing experience in the streets of the CBD. Many people have it. It might not work. It's not customary to Cape Town, and I think we surprise everyone around us. In the streets of the CBD, when we hosted the Red Bull Cape Town circuit in front of the iconic City Hall and the Grand Parade. It was truly a breathtaking experience for me, and I'm sure it will be a memorable event in the minds of the Cape Townians who witnessed former Formula One driver David Coulthard with a F1 vehicle. And I think you will agree with me, that sound of the vehicle, that reffing of the vehicle and that sort of thing, and I think you will also agree with me, that's dramatic speed. During the event, I was asked about the possibility of Cape Town hosting a major motorsporting event. I told many of the media present that we would be making an announcement this week. It is with excitement I tell you today that the city of Cape Town has been approached by a consortium about the possibility of bringing the Formula One, actually the Formula E, here to Cape Town. Formula E, sanctioned by the International Automobile Federation, is a class of motorsport that uses only electric-powered cars and has been operational since 2014. First, we have to test out the practicality of hosting that kind of an event, and in that regard, the consortium will start with a feasibility study this week. Actually, this week, this month, supported by the city of Cape Town. I want to emphasize that we have not taken a decision, and the residents of Cape Town will be informed of the results in this process. But I think just the thinking of it, the liking of it, is of good stand and sounds very, very positive. I do, however, want to mention that Formula E Hong Kong, which is currently one of the stops of the Formula E series, has taken off over the last 3 years. It's been held there. If you look at the economic impact, it contributes about, and it is astronomical, 1.4 billion rand into Hong Kong's economy. And one could just think in your mind what it will do to the economy of Cape Town and the Western Cape. Indications are that it could be beneficial to Cape Town, meaning more visitors to spend money at our attractions and jobs for our residents. I was warned not to say too much, but I'm tempted to say a little bit more than the script, because it's a very sensitive, serious matter. And I think what I want to say, Lenora, outside of the speech is, my question is, why not for Cape Town? However, an economic injection is but one of the benefits of bringing Formula E to Cape Town. The cars run on 100% renewable energy, and having such an event here would also assist us in raising awareness and taking action against air pollution. That is a problem if you need to stick to a script. We want to establish Cape Town as a city of motorsporting events in Africa. And the next question I want to pose is, again, why not? Cape Town has already shown it has the capabilities of hosting motorsporting events, with the success of the FIA Rallycross Championship at Killarney over the last 2 years, as well as the annual Drip City at the iconic Grand Parade. Hosting the Red Bull Cape Town circuit this past weekend was another feather in our cap and a demonstration of our capability as Cape Town working with event organizers. We will communicate with you about any developments on the Formula E going forward. I will now hand over to Councillor JP Smith to give you more information about what we have in store for the event space going forward. Thank you for listening to me.
The streets of exotic Hong Kong normally hum to the tune of fossil-fueled traffic. But this weekend, those streets form a racing circuit for the all-electric racing series, Formula E.
Formula E could have been created by two kinds of people, either environmentalists or racing people. It was created by me, racing guy.
And we go green in Hong Kong, green in New York City, green in Rome. It's a good start in Marrakesh.
The first impression they have from motor racing, it's the noise. There's no noise on electric formula.
It's going to be a steep learning curve, but I'm pretty excited.
Andre, are you okay?
It's f***ing dangerous, man.
Motorsport has always been an incubator for things that end up in road cars. Disc brakes, seat belts, all kinds of technology was pioneered at the racetrack and has ended up on everybody's road cars.
In the first year of Formula E, pretty much all the drivers talk bullshit about Formula E. They realize later that this is the future.
You do a good race, you know, you're the king. The next race, you do a mistake.
Bigger is in the wall.
People start thinking you're not good anymore.
When I was young and I finished second, my dad would say, "Oh, here's our first loser."
Oh my goodness!
It's very painful when it doesn't go well.
I don't care what anyone else does. The only thing that I need to do here is win a championship.
Whoever hits the grassy.
What kind of f*** is this mother?
Jean-Eric Bird, the Parisian wins in Paris.
Like I say, I'm not an environmentalist, I'm a racing man, but I do worry about the environment. So if I can put both together, fantastic.
People. It's hard to follow that. It's not going to be nearly as exciting. So, good morning, goeiemorgen, alweer nonke. As the Mayor mentioned, we've had a really good year for our events industry and the events office in Cape Town. It started, of course, with being named, as the Mayor said, the world's leading festival and events destination. I had the privilege of collecting that award in Lisbon for the city, and that's when I realized the extent of the honor being bestowed on us. I had initially assumed that the award was achieved with limited competition. But when you're there and you see who we were up against and the extraordinary and sophisticated value offerings they have, you realize that it was no small achievement at all to have won that. And in fact, just keep in mind, we were one of only 2 African destinations that won an award there, so pretty impressive. I think the Mayor has already mentioned many of our other achievements, and we appreciate every individual who's contributed to that. Many of you sit here, you're part of you're all the gems in that crown, and we appreciate your contribution to that success. It's certainly not the city's role alone. And we don't want to rest on our laurels. We can't keep on doing the same thing. We have laid a good foundation over the last few years, but we have to up the ante all the time. And the Mayor has gotten the ball rolling by referring to what we think is a major plank in that foundation, and that is motorsport. So the city has identified several sectors of the event space as priority areas for growth. These are industries we want to work with and support to go forward, and motorsports events we think will be an important part of that growth. Cape Town's already home to the FIA Rally Cross Championship, which is returning to Killarney for its 3rd year, and the annual Drift City event at the iconic Grand Parade, an exhilarating event that sees the fans streaming from all over. And we also support the robot racing event at Killarney, which draws a sizable crowd every week. And we're working on expanding that and adding a top-end component to it. And then just this last weekend, many people had the privilege of seeing David Coulthard during the Red Bull Cape Town circuit and gave everybody a taste for that Formula One, that very elusive Formula One. The event was extremely popular and was very well publicized, and I think it gave the spectators a real taste of what that would be like. And of course, to top it off, it was free, so we were able to give access to anybody across the city who wanted to come and see. It follows an event in this very venue here behind you at our world's leading festival and events destination at the iconic Cape Town Stadium in April, the so-called Monster Jam, which was a first for me. It's not conceived that it could be entertaining to see oversized tracks with bubble wheels crushing things and doing ramps, but there you go. It's impossible to not like. And if you were talking about engine noise, Mr. Mayor, that was brought it also to a different level. I feared the decibel readings up on the hill all the time. The new Music and Motor Festival, which will be coming to the stadium in November, is going to increase or add some new highlights. And I think more and more is emphasizing the city's ability to host premier motorsports events as a destination. We want to bring even more of these events types to ensure that our long-standing and thriving motorsport culture in the city can have and enjoy the kind of events they love. I think we acknowledge that we can do more, that we've perhaps not done enough to support this category of sporting events in the past, and now we're doing it. This will also provide an opportunity to introduce platforms for responsible racing as an alternative to the street racing, which unfortunately continues to claim lives. As the Mayor has mentioned, we believe that this could culminate in hosting Formula E, and I've watched many YouTube clips about Formula E. I'm very excited about it. And Mr. Mayor, I couldn't keep quiet. You didn't make me sign a non-disclosure agreement. So last night at Nachlistan during the cooking, there are big dull patches in between where you talk to your fellow cooks. And of course, I got given the wooden spoon because as a politician, I'm good at stirring. You go. I did sort of leak, they made a Scout's honor promise, hope to die, that they would not divulge until today, that Formula E was coming, and I tested the cross-section of people who I was there with. The excitement is significant. Some of them say they hadn't watched it online, but they hadn't watched it before regularly as a motorsport, but they were acutely aware of it, and when it came here, they would be supporting it in a big way. And of course, some of them started lobbying for tickets. So I think it's going to be enthusiastically embraced by the citizens, and is going to create huge economic benefits for us if we can start replicating what Hong Kong has leveraged out of it. Motorsport's not the only category. I think our oceans give us a unique opportunity as well. We are lined by 2 oceans, some 309 kilometers of coastline. We've already made full use of this resource with staging major events, including the Volvo Ocean Race and the ITU Triathlon World Cup, among others. And we think there is much more potential to explore and to plan for. We're already in discussion with some major organizations about the possibility of bringing more ocean-based events to Cape Town, and we will make an announcement in this regard soon. We also recognize the importance of community events, as they not only drive local trade in the areas, but they attract people to areas who might not normally have gone there. And I think probably the best example in the city is the DSTV Mitchells Plain Festival, which we can certainly take a leaf out of. There are lessons to be learned from that, and they draw thousands of people from across the city. It's billed as the biggest events of its kind with around 35,000 participants. And I think aside from giving a platform to the small businesses and others who trade there, it also profiles our local artists, DJs, musicians, and entertainers who entertain for the crowds. So this model used for the DSTV event, I think, can be replicated to boost events in other communities who have similar attributes to Mitchells Plain, and we can help them build on their positive image and on that local investment. Over the years, we've seen how this particular Mitchells Plain Festival has changed the perceptions of Mitchells Plain and has attracted people who might not otherwise have visited. And the idea is to increase our support from the city for these kind of events, and we haven't left that at lip service. It's an easy thing to pay lip service to, but we have put our money where our mouth is. So with many of the larger events applications that have come to the city, we have offered them increased financial support if they would be willing to relocate out of the more traditional event spaces around the CBD and the Atlantic Seaboard to spaces elsewhere so we can extend the city's events footprint and bring the benefits to communities that have not traditionally benefited from those events. So we're committed to this and we want to see it grow. Before I go any further, I do want to add, though, that Cape Town as a city, we don't own any of these events, except for one or two, like the switching on of the festive season lights. But we do play an important supportive role. There are many of these events that wouldn't get up to speed without the very competent support from our events office and the various departments that support them. And we've attained a very strong track record as an events capital, not only in Africa, but in the world. So I want to again express my appreciation, not just for our officials, but for the events organizers who work with us and have to endure our complicated and sometimes diabolically sophisticated procedures. Thank you. But that allows us to host events safely. You do not hear horror stories with our events, as one often hears from elsewhere. And it allows us to put on truly spectacular events. I also want to thank our city staff. I think you often go uncelebrated. You work behind the scenes. There are always a few busy people running around furiously at the last minute trying to help the events organizers sort out a last minute pothole. And it's only that kind of relationship and connection that gets a pothole in Darling Street fixed 3 hours before an event that was missed earlier. So thank you to everybody in the events office, in traffic and disaster management, water and sanitation, in solid waste, in roads and transport, in planning, and environmental management. We are really grateful for what all of those officials contribute. In terms of the city support, we look at the events office, for example. By the end of March, the number of events permits that they'd issued stood at 1,047. So when you mention this figure to other cities, they do a double take. Some of them find it hard to believe that that figure can be true. Some of them, bigger cities than us and cities that are certainly better resourced, don't manage those kind of events figures nearly. And that figure of 1,047 is with 3 months left to spare in this current financial year. So it looks set that we will pass the 1,277 the permits that we issued last year. So we might well be setting a new record this year for the number of events permits. And that was partially made possible by the mayor, who during the adjustment budget augmented our budget by a few million to make it possible for us to do those few extra events that were competing for the money. Our support for the events, whether it's financial or through services, is increasing every year. In the current financial year, we've already financially or logistically supported 120 events. If you look back to 2012, when we first established the events department and adopted in the integrated event strategy, we barely supported 28 events. So we've come a long way. If you go even further and see what we've done in terms of budget, look at the 50 million rand budget we have this year to support events. And barely a few years ago in 2012, there was a meager 4 million rand on that events budget. The top 8 events in Cape Town generate around 3 billion rand of economic activity, and we can tell you this confidently because of the financial impact assessments that are done for them, and they promise many sustainable jobs. The city could never, through direct investment, achieve those same kind of jobs. If we took the 50 million rand that we have for events now and we spent it on direct salaries, whether full-time staff or EPWP staff, we could maybe appoint 200, 250, maybe if you do really entry-level posts, we could make 300-400 posts with that money, but nothing like the estimated 30,000 posts that the events industry creates. So the city could never leverage through direct investment what the events industry does when we support it appropriately. So I won't go into much more detail about the individual events contributions. If you have a look at the screen, there is a brief breakdown on the economic impact of some of these specific events. And again, all of this is not possible without a partnership between the private sector and local government. And that's because we understand the value of events, not only in building communities through social cohesion and raising awareness, but around that it is about social issues and that we need to boost the economy and job creation. It's a major issue. Every public meeting that the mayor attended before the election, there are a few issues that stand out, and along with housing and crime, jobs is always one of the top 3. So it must be an important area where we retain our focus. And the events bring Cape Townians together like nothing else, whether it's a sporting event or it's a cultural event. During these events, people from all over Cape Town share the same space: music, dancing, laughter, happiness. And these are the times when we all get to identify with that common identity of being Cape Townian. So there are many things like politics and processes that seek to divide us, but I think events make us stronger as a city and stronger as a people. And for that reason alone, it's worthwhile supporting these events. If we look towards the future, as I mentioned earlier, our role in the eventing space has grown considerably over the years, but none of this is possible if we don't look towards modernization. Our processes are not modernized as it should have. We have been working for the last few years, and I want to tell you that we are ready to launch our events e-permitting system. It's an online tool which allows event organizers to submit their permit applications without any fuss of paperwork. And in the end, we believe this could result in an online portal and app which will guide us on events in and around Cape Town for local and international events organizers, for residents and visitors. It links with the recreation and parks and other city facilities and to our policing and security and emergency services, and helps plan their resources. So by the time you're submitting that events application, we're starting to ring fence those resources, understanding that on that day we will have those commitments. It makes forward planning far more effective. So we're always looking for more ways to ensure that we can do what we do better, and to grow the jobs and economy around the events and film industry, and new opportunities and changes present themselves in the industry all the time. You have to adapt quickly, as we did with the film industry when it went through a bit of a dip. That slump we responded to, and I think there's been a very healthy recovery. And we took the mayor to the Good Hope Centre a couple of weeks ago. You got to see Raised by Wolves being shot there, the series, following shortly on Bloodshot, the set that I got to see previously. Best perk of the job is getting to go see these sets, especially if you have a vivid sci-fi imagination and you're a sci-fi consumer. These are just amazing opportunities. And when you hear the kind of jobs they're talking about creating, the downstream opportunities that are generated by each of those endeavors, that's just amazing. We can't replicate that otherwise. And so we understand that one of those new factors we have to respond to is increasing the venues available for film shoots and events, so that we can expand the film and events industries. And for that, they need to access large venues, especially indoor venues, for film shoots, conferences, events, concerts, and sporting tournaments. And I want to tell you that we've heard that. We can see that at the moment, the lack of venues is preventing us from growing as we should. And we're looking at recapturing some venues, reinvesting in some venues, and developing some venues. And that's good news. And Netball knows it's not going to get left out of that equation. We will have to build and make sure that we are ready for 2023, which we are super excited about. It's Netball's time. Finally, I want to encourage all the organizers to continue with the work you're doing to position Cape Town as the events destination of choice. And I want you to know that the city is here to back you up, that we're listening, and that when you have ideas, we will respond. Thank you very much.
Cape Town, voted the world's leading festival and event destination in 2018, is known for hosting spectacular gatherings, parties and events. Now hosting your event in Cape Town is even easier with the launch of our modern online events permitting system. Just go online and with a few clicks, you can submit an event permit application as quick as it takes to drop a beat. Activate online permitting. Get your event started.
Councillor Smith, a lot of you know him. He's the guy that rolls up his sleeves and gets to work in the trenches with us with the event space. Thank you, Councillor Smith, for that. In the event space, we know that there's a lot of challenges that face us, and you have to be really resilient to be an event organizer. You have to be nimble. And there's an event that forms part of the city's DNA that really deserves a badge in terms of resilience. And they're very quick on their feet, or rather quick on their bikes. They faced rain, they faced horrendous winds, protests, And they've all even led the way in terms of our water conservation. And so we've asked the race director, David Ballez of the Cape Town Cycle Tour, to join us on stage and just share some of his thoughts with us.
SABC, you can take that away. I'll be quoted. Right. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm not quite sure why I'm standing up here, Leo. There are a lot of awesome events down here that should be talking. Very briefly, the Cape Town Cycle Tour started in 1978 with 527 riders. It was, in typical South African fashion, a protest. It was a ride to protest against the lack of facilities for cyclists in the city of Cape Town. Currently, it's a registered PBO. It's owned by the Cape Town Cycle Tour Trust, founded by the original founding partners, Pedal Power Association and the Rotary Club of Claremont. And the primary aim is the generation of charitable surplus and the promotion of the sport of cycling. 100% of the charitable surplus generated by the Cape Town Cycle Tour is distributed equally to Pedal Power Association for cycling development and safe cycling initiatives, and the Rotary Club of Claremont through social upliftment. Currently, we have 35,000 participants. The event is recorded as the largest timed bicycle race in the world, attracting 50% of our participants from outside of the Western Cape. That's just the participants, not those that are coming in with them. As Leo alluded, we've faced a number of challenges, and there's no doubt that it's affected us, and we've had to work very hard to stay on top of it. In 2015, with 4 days to go, we had to change the route from 109 Ks to 47 Ks as a result of the fires that ravaged the South Peninsula. 2017, we woke up to a civil unrest at a part of the route, and we detoured. As we were detouring, a fire broke out in the hills above Hungberg community in Hout Bay, and that presented us with challenges with access and egress for fire tenders. And then the wind blew, so we cancelled. And that was a difficult one to come back from. Anyway, 2016, we hosted an event and brought some credibility back. And then in 2018, just as we'd filled our local entries and our international entries started to trickle in, we announced day zero. And we got some massive pushback from our international market. We then had to come up with a creative solution, and together with the city, who embraced the plan that we came up with, we were able to successfully host the event in 2018. And then, just not to be outdone, 2019 gave us a lovely windy year again. So our sponsors had no branding on the route. But that's a challenge we will rise to again. The impact of the Cycle Tour over the past 10 years, the Cycle Tour has been the catalyst for approximately 500 million rand per year injection into the economy of the Western Cape. Furthermore, and this is a stat that we don't promote as much as we should, over 100 million rand has been distributed back into the community upliftment programs and cycling development programs of the city and of the Greater Western Cape. And it's something that we will continue to strive to do at the Cycle Tour. We utilize the services of approximately 4,000 people on the day or on the weekend of the event as we unfold the entire event. And that is everything from volunteers to city services to both provincial and national services, and that's a staggering amount for a single day event. The impact of the event is that I've always referred to it as a double-edged sword. We started out as a protest. We now put millions of rands back into community, but more importantly, we're generating huge amounts of money for the Western Cape, and we're promoting the country internationally. We formed an alliance with 5 of the largest events around the world to form an organization called WACE, the World Association of Cycling Events, where we uniquely position ourselves as destinations on our continents for mass participation cycling. We currently attract in excess of 3,000 international participants, and that's, again, I stress, just people participating, and we promote healthy and active lifestyles. Local community engagement and involvement with various communities during the Cycle Tour and along the route are absolutely crucial to the success. We've now embraced, following on the 17 challenges we've had. We've embraced local communities. They are part of the event. We've given them ownership in it. They form an integral part of what we deliver, and that has been key to the success of the event over the last 2 or 3 years. And then obviously the giving back of the hundreds of millions of rands over the duration of 40 years of the Cycle Tour back into communities. In remaining world-class and ensuring sustainability of the event into future, the Cape Town Cycle Tour will be looking at a number of strategic initiatives to ensure its ongoing success and continued growth. I think it's fair to say, and somebody mentioned it earlier, that you cannot sit back and rest on your laurels. And the Cycle Tour has occasionally been accused of that. I think the last couple of years have been more about surviving the crises than resting on laurels. But we continually retry and reinvent ourselves. And with that in mind, we will be looking in partnership with the City of Cape Town. For 2020, we are finalizing plans for the introduction of a short route option to the Cape Town Cycle Tour. The final details of this we'll announce later in the year, but essentially it's aimed at sustainability. It's about attracting youth, it's about getting kids on bikes and families. This is a family event, and getting them out on the day before the event to participate in an event of 40-odd kilometers. Novices and healthy outdoor individuals, and what I term the armchair athletes. Those are sitting in their couches watching the event on television or live streaming and going, I want to be part of that, but for whom 109 kilometers is just a bridge too far. So for us, it's about creating long-term sustainability together with the City of Cape Town and promoting this as a destination for sport for all. Thank you.
Dave. Again, thank you to all the event coordinators and owners and sponsors that are here. Really, as the councillor and mayor said, we really appreciate all your contributions. And I particularly want to say thank you to the Cape Town Formula E Consortium company that is here with us today for helping us look at what the possibilities could be. So we're going to break now. Join us for some refreshments. Media colleagues will have some one-on-one opportunities for us. But again, thank you very much for coming.
Together, that would make me strong and brave. Oh, when we are one, I'm not afraid, I'm not afraid. If there's a cloud up above us, go on and let it rain. I'm sure our love together would do a hurricane. Oh, my baby, won't you please let me love you and get a release from this awful misery?
What is all this talk about loving me, my sweet? I am not afraid, not anymore, not like before. Don't you understand me? Come on and please pull yourself together, got to do it very soon. My heart's on fire, come on and take me up, be would you make me my darling, my sweet?
Oh, pretty baby, you make me feel so good. Let me take you by the hand. Come, let us visit out there in that new promised land. Maybe there we can find a good place to keep a loving state of mind. I'm so crazy about love, never knowing what love's all about. James, will you come on in, man? You can blow now.